Now you have a certain number of turns before you're, like, completely engulfed, and you have to keep making constitution checks and possibly take more acid damage as each round goes on, trying to figure out how you're actually smashing your way out of this. So, Alex, I often get notified about forum questions on TTRPGs from Reddit. And
Great. Reddit's a source of all the good things in the world.
There are some very basic, simple questions that come along, some just basic procedural stuff. But then, once in a while, someone asks a question so crazy, I have to bring it up on the show.
Perfect. Great content. Love it.
And recently I saw one come through, and from the title alone, I knew that I had to read this. I would like to share with you this Reddit post, which is actually asking for advice. The title, How Could I Make My Party Fight a Church? Okay, so I'm currently yes.
Fight a church like a building?
Yes.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I assume the building is made of, I assume this is Monty Python's reference suddenly because churches.
Can I read the
yeah,
post? Okay.
I have not. For those of you at home, I have no idea. I haven't seen this. He didn't share a post. So
I have not shared it with him yet, but I'm fine with you placing bets before I start. That's fine.
Monty Pythons, because churches, they float, they're made of wood, they weigh the same as ducks.
It's very...
No, ducks are witches. That was just one of the things someone in the audience yelled out. Churches.
Okay, cool. All right. So,
whatever.
Okay. Okay, so, I'm currently planning an encounter taking place on an island with incredibly advanced mimics, with them able to replace and replicate small buildings if necessary, and I have an idea for a climactic final battle taking place with the priests empowering these mimics, only for the church itself to come alive and attack the party. My question is there any way of making sure that this is fairer on the party? As I don't want this to just kill them, but I'm worried that they'll quite literally walk into the belly of the beast. They can be slightly less than cautious sometimes. Should it attack prematurely, as to avoid them all just being eaten? Should it be overly obvious, etc.? Any advice appreciated.
I have only one bit of advice for this person.
You want them to walk directly.
Go watch the movie Monster House. There are ways
so go
you
watch
can tell.
Monster House. Yeah.
The house was a monster. They could go inside the house.
Yes.
It could also eat them. It's been years since I've seen it, and I don't remember if I watched the whole thing, but you've seen Monster House, right?
Probably.
You're familiar with.
I've probably seen Monster
CGI
House.
movie.
Yeah, I think.
We're gonna have to.
Monster House.
We're gonna have to insert a clip.
I don't want to go inside a monster.
I say it's worth a shot.
Yes, I agree. Let's do it.
And it's got the uvula looking thing hanging down from one of it, like when he looks inside it and goes, "Oh, it's a girl house." Because that is adult humor meant for adults, and children don't know better, so they're gonna be like, "What?"
Yeah.
We've all got uvulas, guys. Use your imagination. It was an adult joke. Or maybe just females would have gotten it. Because men don't know what that is.
I don't know. Yeah, men probably don't know what that is. But anyway, can't find it anyway. The point of the matter is that the church. Let's get back to the church. Let's stop talking about anatomy and get back to the church, which has nothing to do with that.
Yes, keep your anatomy out of my church.
Yeah, keep your anatomy out of my church, okay? So the church. I am liking the idea of advanced mimics that are so big that they can replicate buildings. That's
sure.
Like
then you just give them templates that are bigger, so they're not small, medium. You have to enlarge them, which gives them less AC. They are easier to hit.
Sure. They're easier to hit, but they have more hit points, so you can keep smacking them.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, just bigger doesn't always mean more hit points.
That's true, but I'm thinking that if you have a mimic that's so large that it can replicate a building, it's probably got quite a few hit points.
Sure, it's
from
a boss
size
fight.
alone. Yeah, okay. Now, but that's not really the question. The question is, how would we make it fair on the party? Because I get the general gist. Okay, you got the buildings. The whole town is basically mimics. Okay, it's just mimics all the way down. And the party wanders on into Mimic Town. And they are now in danger of, being disrupted by the mimics. They're going to just walk right in and get chomped. So the question is there a way to make this fair so that you don't just kill them, so that they just
Sure.
get gobbled up by church mimics?
I mean, for one example, it's a church. It is big. It is huge. It should be slow.
Yes, that is true.
It should be a lot slower than a normal mimic.
Mm.
It should give you plenty of warning signs if you're inside it that something's wrong.
There should be a rumbling or something
Yep.
moving around inside.
A rumbling, some dripping from the ceiling, maybe like
saliva.
acid.
Like the acidic saliva.
Suddenly the windows shatter and turn into teeth. Like there's still stained glass like
Oh.
teeth as it kind of like gnaws at it.
Oh no,
You know,
this nightmare
you see
fuel.
its uvula.
Yeah, you see the uvula.
Maybe the stained glass window on the other end of the church turns into an eye.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's got an eye in its stomach. Doesn't matter.
You could use like the pews and everything to be like the ridges of the mouth or something like that, or rows of teeth, like the actual pews become teeth or something like that. You see eyes coming out of the windows, or you notice that those stained glass windows have eyes on them. Even more fun, if you want to make it more obvious, the stained glass windows look like mimic chests.
Yeah, they just have mimic patterns on them.
They have
fucking
mimic
chests.
patterns on it because it's all the mimic can think to make for the stained glass is just mimic chests.
Or even better, you have like the big stained glass that they have instead of being whatever. It's a stained glass of the church, but it's a stained glass of the church, like with a gaping maw and arms
Oh, yeah.
and eating people. So it's like literally just a stained glass image of the church itself
Yeah.
as a mimic eating people, and you just go, yeah. As long as you roll like perception on that, and then like investigate
Sure.
to like, or knowledge arcana maybe. Be like, what does that depict? Oh, that's depicting a church as a mimic,
Yes.
or religion, maybe. And then you go, maybe they put two and two together,
yes.
and then you go, can you determine that this is the same church you looked at from the outside? What's your like intelligence check there? There should be checks and signs that this thing is not what it seems.
Yes. That would be a good thing to imagine. Any kind of building that is going to be this big is going to maybe give off some signs once you get into it, because you can see the details up closer than you would on a normal mimic.
Yeah.
One that's just disguised as a rock probably won't give you this much detail as one
Yeah.
that's disguised
But
as
also,
a church.
like, as I said, it should be slower. It should be easier to hit. It probably won't have the best accuracy, but it's going to hit hard.
What I noticed from a lot of games is that when the enemy is larger, you can telegraph their attacks way easier, and they have a tendency to move a lot slower on the battlefield and with their actions. That's
Yeah.
the kind of the trade-off. They hit hard, but they hit slow, and they hit
Yeah.
less.
Mhm.
Same thing I would say for a church. That's kind of going to be a big thing. Also, I would like to say that it would be really cool if there's like rafters in the church that like the main critical hit spot or something, you have to go up into the rafters to get the.
Well, then you got to be inside its mouth again.
You got to be inside his mouth, but now we're Jonah and
yeah,
the Whale
also-
scenario, or Pinocchio, and
Yeah. But also, weak points could also be really cool to have on that.
yes,
Depending, like, does it get up on a pair of legs and like loom over you? Then its legs would be weak points. Take out the legs and the whole thing falls over.
right.
Design it as if you're designing. I'm going to use Dark Souls as an example because they have notable boss battles, but like, design it like you're designing a multi-stage boss fight.
Yes.
Not that I don't know that tabletop players have the most familiarity with that necessarily, but I feel like most of
There's
us
some
play enough
crossover.
games. Most of us, I think, especially if you're designing the encounters in the GM, probably have experience with other games.
Sure.
Be it video games or other just games or media, for instance. Like, take it from something like Transformers, Pacific Rim. I don't know what you want. Something with a kaiju.
Yeah, something big.
Treat it as a giant mech and take its legs out and have it topple over and then have it still be able to attack you, but like now it's like crippled and it can't really move around.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's got a tongue and you can pin its tongue to the ground or something.
Yeah. So, do you remember in like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, there was like a scene...
No, I didn't see it.
Okay. In the very beginning of the thing, Drax jumps into the mouth of a giant monster. The skin is too hard for them to penetrate. He jumps...
Oh, does he kill it from the inside?
He starts stabbing the inner guts of the monster from inside, and eventually breaks out and kills the monster.
Okay.
I would say that's probably a good way to deal with mimics, is from the inside.
Maybe? I don't think that's a very good way to deal with mimics.
No?
They just eat you.
They just eat you, but we're dealing with giant mimics. The rules might not be exactly the same.
I'm not really sure. You'd have to look at the rules for mimics for that one, but also, like, you're in its stomach at that point. Or at least in its mouth.
At least in its mouth, yeah. I'm wondering if anybody actually... I have to look up at mimic physiology. I'm gonna look up mimic physiology and see if they act... Oh, no, they're just gonna tell me about Mimic 3 databases, aren't they? That's not,
That's not what you wanted in the least.
Oh, wait, yeah, I don't know if they really have much of a physiology that we can reference, sorry. Mimicking the human physiology with microphysiological... Oh my god, no. We've gone down a rabbit hole. No, we're not doing that. I guess just make up the rules with mimic physiology, guys. It's just a lot of stuff. If you're going to have your party that's actually inside of the church, we have to kind of model the physiology around being able to attack it while inside the church. But if it's something that's on legs, or that you'd fight outside of the church, it's probably worth figuring out weak spots or how to bring the church down from the outside, or just have the church eat the players.
That's perfectly fine too. Honestly, just devour them.
Have them make Constitution saving throws for like acid damage, stomach acid damage.
I mean, well, you figure the mouth is really big if they're standing in a church, so they'd have to be like engulfed in it. So maybe if they're sitting on a pew or something like that.
Wouldn't it be interesting if the way that the church mimic works is like the doors shut, like, and then there's a mouth that comes down over the doors, and if you don't get out before the mouth closes, then you start to see like stomach acid start to like rise through the floors and get progressively like further and further up, and so
sure,
now you have
to.
Now you have a certain number of turns before you're like completely engulfed, and you have to keep making Constitution checks and possibly take more acid damage as each round goes on, trying to figure out how you're actually smashing your way out of this church.
Yeah.
And, give them, I don't know, maybe 10 turns or something. That would be about a minute before full. 10 turns to figure out how to get out of this mimic.
That would work too.
That'd be good.
And then they can fight it once they exit, or try to find a way to weaken it from the inside.
If one of your players happens to notice that there is a mouth coming down, or does like an observation check or something like that, maybe they can escape before that happens. You feel a rumbling under your feet. If you're able to do that, I think it becomes a little bit more obvious at a certain point. Okay, so fighting a church mimic, good idea or best idea?
A holy idea.
A holy idea, yes, exactly. Bestowed upon us by the many gods of D&D. Probably Helm. Anyway,
It's the dwarves all along.
Yep. If anyone else has some thoughts on this, well, I'm also going to share the link to the Reddit post. Feel free to comment on the Reddit post if you have ideas, because I'm sure they could use some direct support on some of the ideas. They've only had a few comments on it at this point. Or let us know in the comments down below.
Tell us how you would fight the church.
Yeah. You damn heathens.
Fire. I would use fire.
Use fire. Absolutely. I'm using facts and logic to defeat the church.